Plan. Ladies and gentlemen, I used to think that success was a matter of luck, of timing, of being born into the right circumstances. Plan. But life has its own way of showing us that the most powerful shifts don't happen around us. They happen within us. Plan. My turning point wasn't a big achievement. It wasn't a promotion or a contract or a viral moment. It was an alarm clock. Plan said at 4 a.m., that small quiet choice to rise before the world changed everything. At 4 a.m., there is no noise. Plan. No social media, no distractions. Just you, and your excuses, just you and your dreams. Raw, unpolished, but real. Plan. I didn't start waking up at 4 a.m. because I was strong. I did it because I was tired of being weak. Mentally, emotionally. Plan. Spiritually, I needed space to heal, to reflect, to rebuild. And when you rise before the sun, Plan, you don't just get a head start on the day. You take back your power, your focus, your clarity. In those early hours, I read. Plan. I wrote. I worked, I prayed, I cried, I planned. And slowly I began to rise, not just from my bed, but from my old self. Plan. That's the gift of the 4 a.m. rule. It's not about the time. Plan. It's about the decision to reclaim your life before the world asks you for a piece of it. Wealth followed, yes. So did clarity. Plan. Confidence. Discipline. But more importantly, I found peace. Plan. And if you're tired of surviving and ready to live with intention, I promise you, your new life starts at 4 a.m. Thank you. We often wait for life to give us a sign, a promotion, a reward, plan, or a perfect opportunity to finally start taking ourselves seriously. I used to think that too. Plan. That success would come when the world decided I was ready, that I needed someone else's approval, someone else's spotlight. Plan. Someone else to say, now you can begin. But that moment never came. The world, you see, Plan, doesn't always hand us the breakthrough. Sometimes, Plan, we have to create it from nothing, from the quiet ache inside our own chest. Plan. There was no cheering crowd the day I set my alarm for 4 a.m. There was no camera, no applause. Plan. Not even a friend who understood why I'd want to wake up in darkness while everyone else slept. Plan. But what I did have was restlessness, a kind of discomfort with the way my life was moving. Slow, distracted, always tired. Plan. Always chasing but never arriving. And when that discomfort became unbearable, something inside me whispered, Plan. This is not who you are meant to be. That whisper was not loud, but it was honest. And I listened. Plan. The first time I woke at 4 a.m., it wasn't elegant. I dragged myself out of bed with swollen eyes and a racing mind. Plan. I sat in silence, unsure of what to even do with this early hour. But something inside me felt different. Plan. I wasn't reacting to the world. I was creating space before it even had a chance to demand anything from me. Plan. And that space, that stillness, became sacred. It didn't fix everything overnight. Plan. But it gave me something I hadn't felt in a long time: control. Plan. We spend so much time waiting for success to show up in our bank accounts, in our followers, in titles and trophies. Plan. But the truth is, real transformation begins in silence, in solitude, in the choice to rise when no one's watching. Plan. The 4 a.m. decision wasn't about productivity or hustle. Plan. It was about reclaiming my inner compass. Deciding that from this moment on, I wouldn't wait to be chosen. Plan. I would choose myself. There is something almost sacred about 4 a.m. The world is asleep. The noise, the traffic. Plan. The constant buzzing of phones. All of it is paused. In that hour, the silence is not empty, it's full of possibilities. Plan. Full of thoughts that usually get drowned out by the chaos of daily life. For the first time, you can actually hear yourself think. Plan. You're not reacting to emails or scrolling through other people's lives. You're just there. Plan. Raw and present with your own mind, your own breath, your own dreams. Plan. That silence taught me how loud the world had become and how quietly my soul had been asking for attention. Plan. When the outside quiets down, the inside begins to speak. And those whispers, they are everything. At 4 a.m., plan. I wasn't trying to perform or impress. I was simply being. Whether it was journaling a single thought, sitting in reflection, plan, or stretching into a slow workout, I found that in stillness, my mind started clearing. Plan. Things that once felt overwhelming suddenly seemed manageable. Not because they changed, but because I had. Plan. In those early mornings, I discovered the weight of mental clutter I had been carrying unknowingly. Every to-do list, plan. Every conversation replayed in my head, every imagined expectation. It all began to fade slowly, gently, plan, like fog lifting at dawn. Clarity didn't come in a flash. It came in fragments. I would realize one morning, plan, that a goal I was chasing wasn't even mine. Or that a fear I'd been holding onto had already expired. Plan. This kind of insight doesn't shout, it whispers, and only in silence do you hear it. Plan. The 4 a.m. hour gave me something I hadn't realized I needed: space. Not physical space, but emotional and mental space. Plan. A room inside my own life where I could breathe. And when you find that space, your priorities shift. Plan. The urgent begins to separate from the important. You begin to move differently, more intentionally. You stop running, plan, and you start aligning. And from that alignment, your real power begins to emerge. Steady, quiet, plan, and unshakable. Throughout the day, we are pulled in 1,000 directions. Notifications ping, people call, obligations pile up, plan. And somewhere in that flood, we disappear. Our voice becomes a whisper beneath the noise of everything else demanding attention. Plan. But at 4 a.m., there are no meetings, no emails, no expectations. There is only you and the quiet question. Plan. What actually matters to me? That question, in its simplicity, is powerful. Because when you strip away the distractions, plan, you begin to remember what you truly value, not what the world tells you to chase. Before I started waking early, plan, I lived in a constant state of reaction. I was always catching up with deadlines, with people, with life, plan. But the early hours taught me to respond rather than react. Without external noise, I could see my life more clearly, plan. I realized I was giving too much time to things that didn't fulfill me. I was pouring energy into staying busy, plan, not into being purposeful. The stillness didn't just calm me, it confronted me. It held up a mirror and asked, plan, is this really the life you want to be building? And in that mirror, I saw how many of my choices were borrowed, plan. Dreams I had inherited from others, standards I didn't question, habits formed not from desire, but from expectation, plan. The early morning didn't just make space for productivity. It gave me space to choose again, plan. What do I want my life to stand for? What would I do if I weren't trying to prove anything? These aren't easy questions, plan. They're not always comfortable, but they're necessary. Because the moment you start living according to your own priorities, plan, not someone else's, is the moment you start living with integrity. At 4 a.m., without the performance of the day, plan, your true self starts to show up. The version of you that isn't edited for the world. And that version, vulnerable, honest, plan, sometimes confused, holds the answers you've been too busy to hear. That's the gift of rising early, plan. The removal of everything extra so you can finally see what's essential. And when you know what's essential, plan, you stop wasting energy. You start building a life that feels like yours. Not borrowed, not forced, just real, intentional, plan. And honest. There is something humbling about doing the same small act every single day, especially when no one is watching, plan. Waking up at 4 a.m. doesn't get easier with time, but it does become more meaningful, plan. The discipline of rising early is not about conquering the morning. It's about learning to conquer yourself. Plan. Every time I got out of bed before the sun, I was choosing discomfort over ease. And with each choice, plan, I was slowly teaching my mind and body that my goals mattered more than my excuses. Discipline doesn't come from motivation. Plan. It comes from repetition, from showing up when you don't feel like it. When your bed is warm and your spirit is tired. Plan. In those early hours, I began to train not just my schedule, but my character. Plan. The kind of strength I was building wasn't visible in muscles or spreadsheets. Plan. It was the quiet strength of someone who keeps promises to themselves. And that kind of integrity, plan, it follows you into every corner of your life, from how you eat, how you speak, to how you lead. I started noticing a shift. Plan. The discipline I built at 4 a.m. didn't stay there. It started to ripple. I was more focused during work hours. Plan. I became more intentional with my time. My ability to say no, kindly but firmly, improved. Plan. I stopped tolerating half effort in others and in myself. The small decision to rise early became a foundation. Plan. And from that foundation, I began building days filled with presence and purpose, not just productivity. Plan. Because when you learn to honor your own time, you stop allowing others to waste it. And perhaps most importantly, plan. This discipline gave me something deeper than routine. It gave me trust in myself, that I could follow through. Plan. That I could rely on my own word. Plan. In a world where we are constantly breaking promises to ourselves, starting things and stopping halfway, there is something healing about doing one thing. Plan. Every day without negotiation. That's what 4am became for me. A quiet contract between who I was and who I was becoming. Plan. There's a kind of honesty that lives in the early hours, no audience, no filters, no expectations to meet. Plan. Just you and your truth, however messy or uncertain it may be. That's where growth begins, not in the spotlight. Plan. But in the shadows where you wrestle with your fears, confront your patterns, and sit with your failures. Plan. The world often praises the outcome, but rarely sees the process. Plan. And yet it is in that silent process, unseen and uncelebrated, where transformation is quietly taking place. For a long time, plan, I believed growth was something external. A new title, a finished goal, a moment of recognition. Plan. But I've come to understand that real growth is subtle. It's the shift in how you speak to yourself. Plan. It's the patience you practice when no one's around to applaud you. It's choosing not to give up on a hard day. Plan. Not because someone is watching, but because you are. The hours I spent alone at 4am weren't glamorous, but they were sacred. Plan. In those hours, I shed old beliefs and built new resilience. Those mornings became mirrors. Plan. They didn't just show me who I was. They showed me who I could become. I cried in that silence. I doubted myself. I felt small. Plan. But I kept showing up. And somewhere in that commitment, the shift happened. Not all at once, but gradually. Plan. Like the sky changing color before sunrise, I began to carry myself differently, speak with more clarity. Plan. Set boundaries without guilt. None of this happened on a stage. It happened in the quiet. Plan, where I was free to be imperfect, and therefore free to grow. When the world is asleep, you stop performing. Plan. And when you stop performing, you finally meet yourself. Not the version you show in meetings or online, but the real one. Tired. Plan. Raw, hopeful. And in that meeting, you get to decide, do I stay the same or do I grow? It's not easy. Growth never is. Plan. But it's in those moments, in the quiet work. Plan. The invisible progress, that your life begins to shift in ways the world will only notice much later. Plan. We live in a world that's constantly pulling us outward. From the moment we wake up, we are flooded with notifications, news. Plan. Opinions, advertisements. all designed to grab our attention, shape our thoughts, and occupy our time. Plan. Most of us begin our day by consuming, scrolling, reading, reacting. And in doing so, we unknowingly give away the freshest, most powerful moments of our day to the outside world. But when you wake up at 4 a.m., something shifts. Plan. Before the world gets a piece of you, you get to meet yourself. There's a quiet kind of power in creating before you consume. Plan. Whether it's writing a single sentence, meditating in silence, journaling your intentions, planning your day, plan, or simply sitting with your thoughts, these acts are not small, they are radical. Because in those moments, plan, you are telling the world, I lead, I don't follow, plan. I shape my mind before the world tries to. And when you start the day as a creator of thoughts, clarity, focus, plan, or even peace, you build a life that flows from within instead of being dictated by what's outside. At 4 a.m., plan, there are no expectations. You're not comparing yourself. You're not reacting to someone's curated success. Plan. You're not being fed what to believe, what to buy, or who to envy. There is only space. And in that space, plan, you can create from your essence, not from pressure. Plan. That's how I began to understand who I was outside of roles and responsibilities. I wasn't a title, a task, or a to-do list. Plan. I was a person with thoughts, vision, plan, and a voice. And that voice had something worth shaping before being influenced by 1,000 others. Plan. Creating first also builds emotional immunity. When I spent my mornings writing or simply breathing with intention, plan, I found myself less reactive throughout the day, less shaken by criticism, less desperate for approval. Why? Plan. Because I had already anchored myself in truth before anyone else could define it for me. Plan. The act of creation, however small, reminded me daily that I am capable of generating clarity, not just absorbing confusion. Plan. And that's a kind of inner strength no algorithm can take away. It doesn't matter what you create. Plan. You don't need to be an artist, a writer, or a designer. You just need to start the day in authorship, not autopilot. Plan. Maybe it's a prayer. Maybe it's a goal. Maybe it's one line in a notebook that says, I am here. I matter. Plan. I choose to begin again. These acts of creation are often invisible to others, but they are life-changing to you. Plan. They build self-trust. They center your energy, and slowly you stop chasing approval. Plan. Because you've already approved of your own presence. The world is loud, but the soul is quiet. When you consume before creating, plan, you begin your day already shaped by someone else's ideas. But when you create first, plan, your ideas take root before the noise arrives. You walk differently. You speak with more intention. You begin to live by design, plan, not by default. And the best part, you don't need a perfect plan. You just need a decision to start your morning as a creator, plan. Not because it's trendy, but because it's true. Many people think discipline is about control, plan. But I've learned it's actually about freedom. The freedom to start your day with self, leadership instead of distraction, plan. The freedom to say, my voice matters more than the world's noise. And that freedom, earned each morning, plan, spills into the rest of your day. You show up more grounded in meetings. You listen more deeply. You feel less frantic. Why? Plan. Because you started the day with you, and eventually the world starts to notice. Not because you shouted louder, plan, but because you stood firmer. Not because you chased the trends, but because you built something timeless, your inner rhythm, plan. A rhythm you return to every morning before the rest of the world wakes up. That's what 4 a.m. gave me. Not just extra hours, plan, but a deeper connection to my own voice. And in a world overflowing with noise, plan, there is nothing more powerful than a person who remembers how to listen. First to themselves. It gave me myself, plan. It gave me a life led with intention, not urgency, with peace, not pressure. Plan. This journey isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about waking up not just from sleep, plan, but from all the silent ways we've been asleep in our own lives. And in those quiet, sacred hours, we remember, plan. We are not here to simply survive another day. We are here to create, to grow, to heal, plan, and to rise, even when no one is watching. So tomorrow morning, plan. When the world still sleeps and silence wraps around you like a soft invitation, ask yourself, plan, what would my life look like if I gave the best of me to myself first? The answer to that question might just change everything. Thank you.